Hello and welcome to 9-Inch Charge. Welcome to the Old World Show and welcome, Tom.
Hello.
Today we're going to be talking about some rumours that have emerged this month, and there's a couple of different rumours from a couple of sources to talk about, and it's just cool to have a think about what the game might look like when it starts and when it appears and what might be going on in the studio behind closed doors. So it'll be really exciting to take a look at that and see what we think is going. Whether the rumours are true or not, I don't really think it matters because it's just fun to speculate. But just before we start, I just wanted to point you guys towards our Christmas charity raffle. So every single day during December, all the way up until Christmas Day, we're going to be doing a video to point people towards our charity raffle, and it is to raise money for the New Sibling School. And the New Sibling School is a special school that meets the needs of children with a wide spectrum of severe learning difficulties, including autism, sensory and physical disabilities, and who have a statement of special needs. And they do a really wonderful job. And at the moment, they're looking to upgrade their eye gaze technology, which is quite expensive. It costs £4,000. So we're hoping to raise a little bit of money for them to go towards that. And the eye gaze technology helps children with a locked-in diagnosis just to help reclaim their lives. And it helps them to generate speech by typing a message or selecting pre-programmed phrases, helps them to play games, and just helps them to join in. So anything that you're able to give would mean so much to these children over the Christmas period. And any donation at all, big or small, enters you into our raffle. So to enter, check out the link below. There'll be a Just Giving page, just a link just down there. And leave a donation and leave your name, and you'll be put into the raffle, and you can win one of our spectacular prizes, which range from a Start Collecting Box of your choice all the way up to different rules for skirmish games and various different models. So have a look, check it out. Prizes will be shipped anywhere in the world that the Royal Mail shipped to. So please check it out. It'll be well worth your while having a look. And even as much as a cup of coffee donated will mean so much to these children over Christmas. So with that said and done, let's have a look at these rumours, Tom. So these rumours were first posted on the, if I can pronounce it right, the Natfka blog, Fayette212, if you know them.
Oh, Fayette212. Not been on there in a while.
Yeah, so I mean, this website is known for posting any rumor that comes their way, whether they be a reliable source or not. These ones all say that they're from a solid source, whatever that may mean. So, you know, according to them, it's a solid source, but as we've said, they have a reputation for just posting up anything and everything. Yeah. So we'll read through them and we'll see what we think about them. So the first one was published on the 10th of November, and it says, "Rumours for the Old World. I have some rumours about Warhammer the Old World. As I said in an earlier mail, there'll be no miniature previews before mid-2022. The model ranges are already in the work, but the most progressing part of the reboot is the backstory and the freedoms they have because of the different timeline. Early factions for the game will be no-brainers, and all-time community favourites like the Empire, Orcs and Goblins, Dwarves and Chaos. Those factions are focused for the most part, and the others are in the works. Do not expect Cathay or other niche factions too early. Those will need years after the reboot to come to life. Release should be summer 2023, but that date isn't finally set. COVID brought more trouble for Games Workshop than everyone believes." First impressions, Tom?
I think that's like the starting factions is just, I think that's quite spot on. If I was going to guess, there's going to be models for a starting faction, that'll be it. Like Orcs, Goblins, Empire, maybe Bretonians, an Elf faction. You know, that's what I'd go for.
What I thought was interesting about it is, you're right, Tom, these are all races that we've seen in the maps for the most part. We haven't seen too much of Chaos, but they've been teasing and talking about these factions already. what's interesting to me is that if we get all of these factions straight away, because we've got to think that this is a brand new game. So are they going to re-release old models, or are they going to have new models? Because the range, for example, of just heroes that would be metal, that would have to come out and fine cast or whatever, is quite extensive for these and old plastic kits. Are we going to see a resurgence of the old? So because they, we know they've still got all the molds and all the designs, and it would be quite easy for them to port it across. Or are we going to see, as we said, we'd hoped, brand new sculpts for our old favourite models?
I've been thinking about this quite a bit because they do made to order, and they've done made to order for really old Blood Bowl teams. They've gone really back into the past to release like some old miniatures you just can't get anymore in metal. So I think there's a good scope to do a made to order Empire hero list, because you had like 5 different warrior priests, all of the different councils of wizards. If you were to redo the hero section for Empire, that's like almost 3-4 months of releases just there at their current rate, isn't it? So I think it's there. Yeah, a made to order would be great, a good way of handling it, because the models are really good still, and I think they fit the purpose for a rank and file game. So
this is what Ben from the Two Piece Podcast hopes and suspects would happen. For me personally, I do love all the old models, but I'd like to see some new ones. For me, this just seems very extensive, that if you're going to drop a brand new game, obviously you do need a lot of factions for people to be able to join in and play. But whether or not we'll see everything, I think would be difficult to say in the timeline that they're working on. It would be a massive project and investment if they do drop all of the old armies that we're used to. But it says here no miniature previews before mid 2022. But there was another rumor going back that predated this one that said that there will be an update on how the game is progressing and what is going on early 2022. So may not have any miniatures in it, but we'll get more of an idea of what the game is going to look like. And then if we do know what factions are coming, then we can kind of begin to speculate from there whether it will be old models or new models.
Yeah. So I just want to just say that the Forge World team, or the box game team, I don't know what they're called now. I forget the name of them, but they're really good at designing a box of miniatures that's really interchangeable. So, like if you take a Necromunda, for example, there's a box of miniatures, and then that box of miniatures has multiple upgrade parts they release for it. So they could just release Hero A, Empire General, and then they could release the Banner Standard Bearer upgrade, the BSB, the Great Weapon, the 2-hand weapons, or like a hero upgrade pack, and do it that way. So you just have one base model with 4 different upgrade packs for it.
Well, we know they're a big fan of dual kits now and have been for a long time.
Yeah.
For infantry models and even cavalry and stuff like that. So, but it'd be great to see all those forces that we know and love come back kind of straight away. It would be amazing. Yeah. It'd be like, oh my goodness, it'd be like Christmas. You'd be like, what am I going to get? Where am I going to go? I'd be so torn, I think. I would just, for myself, I kind of just like a couple of starter boxes with like a couple of factions here and there. And then if it was too much, I just want all of it at once, and I get a bit, it'd be a bit much.
It'd be like an overload, wouldn't it? Do I go get the old Chaos Range, or stick Hordes and Goblins? Couldn't decide.
So the other half of this rumor says new edition timelines. So there are also internal changes for Warhammer the Old World. The main studio is more involved in this project, which is the idea of the oldest studio members. Also, the established release schedule for Games Workshop last year is mostly obsolete thanks to COVID. They can no longer bring new editions every 3 years. The Old World will be starting with 3 compendium books to get going, and the most likely coming additional army books later for specific armies. So that's something that we've thought about before, was that there might be a return to a Ravening Horde style book that has got kind of all your rules for all your factions, your one place to go, so that you can start playing before they start to release subsequent army books later on.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of doing it. Because I think a lot of the Old World factions do have enough of a range still to get by. At some point, we were planning on doing a what you can do to get started already. But I've had a look through, and there's a lot of troops, a lot of special, a lot of rare stuff still in the range. If they just did
some armies are
reworks.
just good to go. I mean, lizard
Yeah.
men are pretty much good to go. A lot of chaos is good to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the compendium book is a great way to start, and it was how I started. Ravening Hordes was my first rule book for my Wood Elves. I just come to the end of the 5th edition book and started with a Ravening Hordes book, and it was great. And then when you got your army book, it was nice to see all that specific lore and the army fleshed out. But Ravening Hordes was a great start, and if you're starting a brand new game, it's great to have everything in one place that everyone can get. And I think they've proven that can work with the General's Handbook and things like that for rules.
It works with 40k as well. So when that went
the
to
other
8th
thing here
edition,
that's interesting is that it says the main studio is more involved in this project. So when it started, we thought that it was probably just going to be a Forge World project, but as it's gone on, the information that I've been hearing has kind of changed. That actually, no, this isn't going to be a side project by Forge World. This is going to be another standalone game, and there will be Warhammer 40k, Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and Warhammer the Old World will be the 3 main games. Which, if that's true and it gets that level of support and it's in the main studio, would be fantastic, because that just tells us that it's going to get proper full support for years to come, and that actually we won't just be left with this compendium, that we'll be getting army books and new releases and new models and things like that. It's a shame to me, if it's true, that stuff like cafe and niche factions will come out at a later date, because it kind of seems to make sense to me that the model design has been done alongside the computer game. So you would think that would be at a kind of a finished stage. And when I was talking to Jeremy about Cafe, we were looking at the canon. And for a computer game, it's quite easy, or it's much easier to have all different looking cannons and units and things. But actually, the Cafe cannon has got 2 variants, but it looks like the same kit with like a different barrel at the end of it, depending on what it's firing, which just looks in the computer game like you would expect the model kit to look like. And it looked like the models or the computer generated characters had been designed by the studio team at Games Workshop with that in mind. And so it made us kind of believe that they were further along the process that this rumor suggests.
Yeah, well, they could just be in that initial stage of artwork, a few models, a few free ups, I think they're called. And they've not really got to the nitty gritty of how you break that model down into a stage of being able to mold it. I don't know much about model molding, so you have to forgive me. But yeah, they might not quite be there, and they may not be wanting to pull the trigger on that until they see what the first few months of it look like.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, interesting to see. Personally, I'd love it if they released it with brand new stuff, because also it'd be an incentive to buy rather than go back to your old army. It's not as anything wrong with that. I mean, I'm sat just right in front of it's a Wildwood Ranger. I'm sat right in front of, and you're sat in front of Empire. I got my Wood Elves, and I got some 2 Kings in a box just next to me. And it'd be great to go back and visit them, but also it'd be nice to sink your teeth into something new. So we'll just have to wait and see. So that was the first rumor from the solid source that wishes to remain anonymous.
I don't know. It sounded quite
The
generalized.
main studio stuff, I think I've heard that elsewhere, and also that that we're going to see things like Empire and Orcs and Goblins is pretty much, I think that's quite fair to say, and that's in line with what we would expect. But wait for the miniature previews in the mid 2022 then, if that's right to believe, to see if we're going to get new models or not for our old factions, or if they'll be made to order.
I'm not happy about that timeline.
I know it's too long, isn't it?
Yeah, it's way
just
too long.
Chomping at the bit. Everybody just wants to play this game, and
I wanted the box set released summer 2022.
Yeah, that's my dream, to be honest. But as long as we get some information and we know where it's going, and and Games Workshop are pretty good at being upfront with us. As I'm sure as soon as they're able to tell us, then they will. But we'll just have to wait. But apparently, early 2022, so not too long to wait now. A couple months, and we should know a little bit more. So the next rumor, also from a solid source, which was published only a few days ago, 25th of November. It just says, I got information about those compendium books for Warhammer the Old World. So it might be the same source saying, I mentioned the compendium books. So as earlier said, it will be 3 books and they will be split into good, bad, and neutral factions. So let's talk about this first before we go further on. So the good factions are Empire, Bretonnia, Dwarves, and High Elves. The bad factions are Warriors of Chaos, Beasts of Chaos, Dark Elves, Skaven, Orcs and Goblins, and Vampire Counts. And the neutral factions will be Wood Elves, Khemri, Ogre Kingdoms, and Lizard Men.
I don't know. I would have gone more with the Age of Sigmar, Order, Disorder, Death, and Destruction. I think that sums up factions much better than good, bad, neutral.
I'm not too happy with the neutral, if I'm honest. Just in that, when I think of the old world personally, I think Ogre Kingdoms is a fair one for neutral, but I don't by any means think that the Lizard Men are neutral with all the wars they fight against chaos and trying to do the old ones well. And they are a force for good in the world, a great force for good, and they keep open all these different portals and all the things that they do in the world. For me, shouts that they're a good army. And also, the Wood Elves, although they're very self-centered and don't reach out into the world too much, whenever they are fighting, they're fighting on the side of good. And they don't turn up and invade, for example, the Empire, and they don't turn up and invade Ulthuan. They turn up and they hunt down the Beastmen, and they do, and they fight their wars against chaos. So I don't know that in my mind's eye for how the game is formulated. For example, I always thought of Wood Elves in terms of more like Dungeons and Dragons, where you get chaotic good or kind of like neutral good, but they're still good. They're not pure neutrals. Khemri, I don't know enough about the lore, even though I've got some of them. I don't know enough about the lore to be able to say one way or the other, what they do. But again, they fought wars against the Empire and things like that. So I don't know. For me, I think the 3 compendium books, as I said, is a really good idea. I like that all the rules will be in one place, and they're not going to be able to do fully fleshed out books. I mean, how many races have we got here?
A lot. 5, 6, 7.
So we're saying on release there will be 14 playable races.
That is an undertaking, to say the least.
Yeah, so whether or not they will say these are the rules and the models will come out in due course, feel free to use your old rules or your old models, I don't know. Or whether they'll do, like you said, here's your chance to order your back order. This month we're going to do Lizard Men, next month we're going to do Ogre Kingdoms. I don't know how it will look, but I do feel like releasing a full game with 14 full factions is it's massive. So
it's big.
The talk to switching it to the full studio could well be true. I don't know what their capacity for producing whole armies is at the moment, bearing in mind they can't produce dragons.
No, so it'd be interesting.
Yeah, but this is something, if it were true, it's just over the moon about. I'd be like, oh my god, look at all, it's like the game's just back. So
this is what makes me think it's going to be, at the start, we're going to see a lot of the old ranges. So as it left from 8th edition. So we'd have all of our Empire Knights back. So I'm not sure, but they must have the molds. Molds must still work.
Yeah.
They just put them back on the website, produce them. Just do it made to order instead of making a million Empire horse boxes.
So let's move on to the second part of this rumor. Those compendiums, so those 3 compendiums just mentioned, will be timeline-wise set in the old Warhammer Fantasy Battles timeline and include rules for all units from the 8th edition army books before the End Times was released. Characters inclusive, but no Nagash or Glotkin, etc. And then new army books and new rule books and expansions will then be set in the new timeline for Warhammer the Old World. So it looks like there's going to be a reboot of Warhammer 8th edition, so you can start playing straight away, and then any further expansions to the game will be in the new timeline, in the new world, in line with what we've been talking about with the maps that we've seen. So it does, and it does say there that all the characters will be available as well, except for the ones that came about in the end times. So we're not going to go. So we're going to go back to the timeline that we remember, and then we're going to go back again with future releases.
Yeah.
I don't know how coherent that is. I get it if you've got certain heroes that they want to bring back. I don't necessarily know why they would want to bring back specific human heroes that would have been long dead. I don't really know why they would want to do that and start to mix timelines. It sounds like it's beginning to get a little bit confusing.
It could do, but it could just be a setting to have all of the ranges as they were before the game was axed. They don't have to do. They just have to get the ball rolling, and then they've got a couple months to start releasing a campaign book and start setting up the narrative like they did with Age of Sigmar.
But then I guess what I was trying to say is, why not just do that then? Why not just go back to 8th edition? Why have this new setting and all this sort of stuff if you're then just going to say, oh, but you can play in whatever setting you want? Kind of what I like about what they've been showing us is that it's an interesting time in the game. Just before, just the chaos is becoming ever more powerful. The Great War against chaos is just about to happen. The High Elves are reaching out to the old world, and all this sort of new things that we can consider to be just standard are kind of just coming about. The Empire isn't a full nation that's still overrun by orcs, and we get to see all these interesting things that happen in the world. And then I've been getting really excited about that in my own personal kind of hobby time. And now it's like, oh, well, we are going to do what you remember, and then we're going to do that later on. And, when the new book comes out, but when it comes out, it won't have a new rule book.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't seem quite right to me.
Do they have to change the entire aesthetic of the game? Are there going to be hundreds of Empire handguns? What's the Empire artillery school like? 300 years before the Empire's a thing.
Artillery is okay. There are still steam tanks, but before, there's no. The College of Magic is what is really different, because the High Elves haven't come over and disciplined the human mages, so there will be hedge mages and things like that. But that's what I was looking forward to seeing. So we'll just have to wait and see with that one.
So but if it just gives them a chance to use the stuff they have, and then when they're designing, because designing an army for them takes quite a long time to get it through, get all of the designs done, get the rules printed, get the photos and the artwork all sorted, and then tie it in with a campaign, which I can imagine they'll release a lot of the armies with. It might just not be feasible to do it for 14 factions straight off the bat. Because you might end up with that weird dissonance you had at the start of Age of Sigmar, when you had the new forces, which were quite a lot bigger. The models were quite a bit bigger. The scale was a bit different compared to the old Empire Spearman, who's running around trying to fight a Chaos Warrior who's twice his size.
Well,
so,
I don't have a problem with the 8th edition rules. I just have a problem with the setting. If it's not why would they have two settings? But we don't know if these rumors are true or not. And that actually takes us to the end of these rumors that have appeared. Hopefully the stuff about seeing new models next year and having more information early on next year is true. It would be incredible if 14 factions dropped just when the game dropped. I thought it would be kind of more of a slow growth thing, and if that happened, it would just be phenomenal, and everyone could have their pick of whatever that they wanted. Yeah. So, just before we close and round that out, do you have anything you want to say about that, Tom?
No. Is there? I don't know. I just want to see it. I do agree that the two settings weird, but you've just got to get the ball going somehow.
Yeah,
I think it could probably do a bit better of a job. I don't know how the Horus Heresy release. I'd imagine it'd be somewhat similar to that if they were going to do it properly. But I'm really excited to have the full part of the main studio supporting it. That it's just a good sign for longevity, and it's not going to be four guys in the Games Workshop shed. Is it? Yeah. It's going to be like a proper studio doing it.
Absolutely. All right, well, let us know in the comments what you think about these rumours, if you think that there is any credibility to them or not, if there's something that you would like to see or not. Let us know what you would like to see personally. Be sure to give this video a like as well and subscribe if you would like to see more like this in the future. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you especially to everybody who made it to the end of the video. You guys are all champions. And we will catch you next time.
Take care.